What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video I wanted to do kind of a pulse check, see how everybody's doing on the eve, and it's very late at night, I think, by the time this video is going up, or even the morning, about how we're feeling with the God of War Remastered Saga, again, being kind of the eve of the anniversary. Now, look, the 22nd, big day for the fandom. I'm actually going to have a video, I think no matter what, up on the channel, pretty special God of War 1 video that you guys will see within 24 hours. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully you guys are too. But yeah, I just wanted to I've done a few of these videos in the past. It's kind of me just ranting and raving, and you guys can just, chime in the comments. I'm feeling okay. It's a very selfish. Let's just go to me first. But again, you guys can, of course, let me know what you think down below. Obviously tomorrow's the big day. We got the panel. I think it's like night. I think it's 5 to 7 p.m. I think Pacific time. So, it's later in the day. As we know, there's going to be at least they say, no announcement at that panel. And here's the thing. I'm ready to concede. I'm ready. Not yet. I'm ready, eventually to do it. I'm willing to give them a few more days. I want to believe it's still real. I want to go, to the Jeff Grubbs of the world and all that stuff of what he was saying. As we've talked about 1,000 times, just because the anniversary is that day. We've seen this before with God of War 3, that game being remastered. They waited till I think like a week and a half or a week later, and then they did it. Kind of cruel, kind of unusual, and it'll be the same thing here if they do it here as well. I don't think it's happening tomorrow. If it were to, maybe like before the events, but then maybe we wait for this upcoming week. But eventually, I would say within the next 7, 8, 9 days, I'm willing to concede that this thing was just not going to happen in the first place. But I'm never going to back down. And this is something that I don't think some of the haters of myself and my content, I just don't think they understand. Look, I still think it's a good idea. I've never wavered. And I'm not going to waver whether this thing happens or not, or I guess, specifically if it doesn't happen. I still believe this was a good idea from the beginning. I think this would show a lot of things, as I've said before, one of which is that PlayStation just kind of PlayStation, they care about the past, and they care about, I guess, that avenue of preservation and kind of bringing back these, you want to say bring back these franchises. I mean, God of War is already active and very much more active than a lot of the other ones, but it would just show willingness. I think that's the key word that I've said, 5 or 6 times before. It would just show a willingness from PlayStation to do something like a Greek Remastered Saga. That's the thing. For me, as we've constantly said, I don't think it's like people being too stuck in the past. At least that's not my case. Whenever people tell me that, it's like, well, God of War is new. They're reinventing the franchise. They're doing new stuff. I think especially having a blend is important, and it's best when you do have a blend, right? The thing with oftentimes PlayStation, or we've had The Last of Us, right? So many remasters and remakes versus new games. And Naughty Dog has struggled to make new games and make games outside of The Last of Us, or even just push The Last of Us, Part 3, etc. But, we keep getting Last of Us 1, Last of Us 1 a second time, Last of Us 1 a third time, Last of Us Part 2. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration from people that are not necessarily on my side, I get it, but I think that's where the frustration lies, is there's no blend. There's no blend there. It's not both things. It's just one thing. For God of War, I actually don't see why this would be a negative thing. We got God of War 2018. We got Ragnarok. We're for sure going to get another God of War game eventually. What's the problem with balancing that a little bit and giving us some of the old stuff? So that's kind of always been my stance on it, and I'll always stand on, again, whether this thing actually happens or doesn't happen. I think it's a good idea. I think it should happen. I think it would be really rad, for a 20th anniversary to do something like this. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to give up hope yet, even though they say, not at the panel, could still happen on the 20th anniversary, could happen this following week, like a random Monday, Tuesday drop. Of course, it could not happen. And I guess that's okay too. As I keep saying one final time for that element as well, I said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. At least this shows that Santa Monica cares. And that's really one of the big things, or really the only thing I was looking for months ago when I didn't even really care. Because I got into this remastered thing kind of late. But when I did, I obviously went full force. But before then, all I was really looking for any of these anniversaries was just acknowledgement, right? Just show that you care. And doing panels and doing artwork and doing all these behind the scenes facts and doing these god battles on social media. Like, who else does it, right? They're doing a really, really good job. I know expectations for some people have been set at remaster or bust. I get that. But if your mindset is not there, I think they've done a really good job, because they've done maybe 10 times more than anybody else would do for any anniversary of their game. So I'm happy with what we got. Ultimately, if it doesn't happen, and this is, something that I feel like people almost don't believe me on these kind of things, and yet I put my money where my mouth is. I'm always honest with you, so I don't give you any reason, I think, to distrust me, but some people do. I kind of just move on. Like, it'll always be something in my head. Like, I want this to be real. I'll want it in 5 more years when we do the 25th anniversary, right? I'll want a remastered thing, but largely I will say, okay, well, what's done is done, and the next God of War, when that's announced, will be full steam ahead towards that, or Ghost of Yotei will distract me. But basically, ADHD type brain, I can jump around and like get interested in other games. But honestly, no, I want it. I would be, as I've said before, it disappoints me in the sense that it just feels so right. It feels like something they should do. Not that Santa Monica promised it and then they canceled it, right? It's not that kind of disappointment. I don't want people to get kind of confused on that. I've issued caution before. I've said, hey, please, for the love of God, if this doesn't happen, there should be nobody going after them. All of this stuff was built up from insiders and community. That's how all this stuff happened. Santa Monica never teased it. They never said it was going to happen. That's just the case. So again, that's why to not take it, super, super seriously is probably important. And that's why, again, like I'm able to, I think, break it up and say, if it doesn't happen, is there a little bit of disappointment? Yeah, but I can also still have that part of my brain that says, you know what, they did a really good job. I can still kind of separate those two things. So the hope is not dead, at least from me. We'll check in a couple more days. We'll see if they do anything, this upcoming week, and we'll go from there, all right? Again, check out the God of War 1 video I got ready for you tomorrow. I think it's going to be a really, really special one. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.